Hey pilots, I'm going to go ahead and show you how we measure paragliding lines. So, make an end loop at one end. I'll stick it on my spool holder here. Pull this puppy out. Okay, like so. Put it on my anchor. Like so. And then put a little loop in there. Pull that loop out. There we go. And let's say that our measurement is 4239 millimeters. 4239, which is right there. So what I do is add 3 millimeters for this specific line diameter. Actually, this is 4 millimeters I'm at. So this was 4238 millimeters. And so the line that I did in the past was I had to do it 4 millimeters more to 4242 millimeters. So 4 meters and 242 millimeters to right to that mark. So what I do is I take this, just do this, grab my little tension device, and I got it on the kilogram setting. I go to 5 kilograms, or if you're on the pound setting, you go to 11 pounds, both identical. So I go to my 5 kilogram mark, and then I'll go ahead and line this up to 4242, and I'll go ahead and make my pin mark right there, 4242 millimeters. And then what I'll do is I'll put a piece of tape right there, and my garage door closes automatically if I forget to close it. Yeah. And so now I'll go back to the sewing machine. Over here, and I'll stick my spool in my little spool holder. It was designed for coffee cup, but I couldn't get it in there, so it's my spool holder. And I'll throw this out there like so. And then let's say my mark is, this is a new line. I'm not going to mark it because I'm going to use it later on, but hypothetically, let's say my mark is right there. What I'll do is I'll crease it right at the mark, which is 4 millimeters longer than the exact measurement that I desire. And I'll put this on my little scale here, and I got a grease pencil that could actually, so this stuff will rub off, so let me make a white mark. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a white mark right there. Okay, at the apex, so that's my mark, just 4 millimeters. I can't talk. 4 millimeters longer than I want. So I'll line this up, and then for this size line, I'm doing a 30 millimeter end loop. So I'll make that mark on both lines, and then my reverse stitching is going to start 1 centimeter before that, or 10 millimeters. So that's my marks, my apex mark, my 30 millimeter end loop mark, and then my sewing is going to go from here all the way to 130. Make a mark there. Okay. So we have 100 millimeters of sewing and a 30 millimeters of end loop for this specific line size. And then what I'll do now is I will cut this, but I'm not going to do it because it's a new line. I'll cut that right there. And my core and sheath will be perfectly in line with each other, and I want the polyester sheath to be about 2 millimeters past it, so I can melt the polyester sheath and pinch it together so that the core doesn't poke out when I'm sewing. So what I'll do is once I cut that, because the sheath and the core are perfectly in line with each other, I'll pinch where my apex is, and I'll milk the sheath down to get it the braid of it to get past the core. And I'd say 50% of the time, depending on the line I have, it'll work by pinching the apex. Other times, like, it won't give me enough, so I'll actually have to go further up. And what that means is my mark is actually going to move. So when I slide this down and I get my, 1 to 2 millimeters past the core, it's going to move all four of these marks that much too. So I'll go ahead and melt my ends of the polyester, pinch it together, and then what I'll do is when I fold this back together, and I'm not sure if you can see, but my apex mark is right there, and I'll pinch it right where that apex mark, but I know that it's moved 1 to 2 millimeters this direction. And so instead of lining up the 2 marks here for my end loop exactly straight across like they were initially, I'll back that up. Whatever distance this went past, I'll back that up to make up for that, so that we're still where we want to be, 4 millimeters past the actual measurement that I want. And then I'll tape these together to sew. And this just kind of keeps my loops right where I want them. Okay, so these aren't perfectly aligned. It's backed up a couple of millimeters to anticipate for what I was talking about earlier. And now I'll go ahead, and this is cut here hypothetically, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew it. So my end loop in here. And that'll look like, where's the other end? When I get done sewing, I'm going to have end loop just like this. So I'm going to start at the mark 1 centimeter before. I'm going to sew in reverse to the next 2 marks, and then I'm going to sew my 100 millimeters down, and then at the end I'll back up a centimeter. Now this stitching will actually shorten this line. So if I had this 100 millimeters, it is now going to be 100 and it's going to be 95 when I'm done. So I always anticipate that. So if I do want 130, 30 for the end loop and 100 for my stitching, I'll make it actually 5 millimeters past it. And when I get done, then it'll be still 130. Well, this case here, this one's a little bit different. It's 125. But it was just different for the specific line size because I have a spreadsheet for every line diameter and what the shrinkage is going to be for that specific line with that specific size end loop that's allocated for that specific line diameter, as well as the stitching length, because the stitching length in these vary from 90 to 150 millimeters depending on the line thickness. And then the shrinkage, the amount of stitching is going to be different, likely because the length of the stitching is different, and as well as the line diameter, as well as the thread that I use. I have thread that's Tex 45, Tex 70, and Tex 90, and all those will cause a different shrinkage rate, and that's why you have to do a lot of trial and error and get all those specifics down and document it so that when you do lines for your customer, they're going to be right on the money. And so when I get done sewing this, it is going to be 4 millimeters shorter than where that mark is. And then when I go ahead and remeasure it, it's going to be exactly on the mark, the mount that I want. So I want it at 42.38 millimeters. I'll go out there and I'll remeasure it after I've sewn it, and it'll be at 42.38 millimeters with 5 kilograms of tension on it. And that's just from all the practice and trial and error. Now I'm sure a lot of shops out there have their own little methods of doing this. This is the way I've learned through the years doing, but if somebody's got a better idea, a better way to do it, please share it. I'm all ears. But this works for me, and if you haven't done this before and you want to learn how to do it, this can work for you, and I'll pass on all the information that I have if need be. Thank you. GoPro, stop recording.